In the 11th episode of The Twilight Zone and When the Sky Was Opened, 3 astronauts spend 31 hours in space. They go missing or something for 24 hours and then they return to Earth. All is normal. But then they start disappearing. But why? Is the universe just a computer that needs an upgrade on RAM and is running low on memory? Probably. We will definitively answer this question in Season 1, Episode 11 of The Twilight Zone. This is the signpost up ahead. Okay, yes, hello, and welcome to the Signpost Up Ahead, a Twilight Zone recap show. I'm Matt Stokes.
And I'm Patrick Perot.
We are going through the Twilight Zone one episode at a time, talking about it, spoiling it. You know, don't consume this product if you haven't watched the show first, or if you don't care. I don't care about spoilers. Some people care about spoilers. But spoilers for this 85-year-old TV show.
Look, if you enjoy listening to us / watching us, and if you enjoy this podcast, I would highly recommend you just watch the episode right before you watch this or listen to this. I think you'll enjoy it infinitely more.
Yeah, that's what I tell people. Is like if you feel like it's the Twilight Zone something you want to tackle, this is your companion. You just watch the episode and you listen to us. Season 1, Episode 11, and When the Sky Was Opened is the episode in question. Directed by Douglas Hayes, written by Rod Serling, based on a short story by Richard Matheson, as are so many episodes of the show. And just read Richard Matheson. He's a great writer. Originally aired December 11th, 1959. I think this episode rules. I like it a lot. I don't know that I'd ever seen it before.
As I say a lot during these, I'm fairly certain I've seen it before, but I didn't really remember it. I might have. I don't know. It felt deja vu-y at some points, but I completely guessed where it was going. And I really liked a lot of it too, but there's a lot of questions that I don't think we got any resolution to that I would like to touch on later, and maybe we can figure it out as we've often done in the past, brainstorm and get what exactly they're trying to say or what's going on, yada yada.
We got Rod Taylor as the one of the lead actors, you know, from Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, also the voice of Pongo, the Dalmatian. And this was directed by Douglas Hayes, very prominent TV director, and went on to do shows like Night Gallery and Magnum PI. I think you got a lot of talent going on happening in this episode. And I think that this is one of those episodes where for me, it is more about the journey than the destination. It is about an experience, and the experience of knowing something is true. And every single indication in the exterior world is saying, no, you're wrong. That's not true.
Look, I'm a kind of guy who's about the journey and not the destination guy for the most part. But sometimes if the destination sucks bad enough, the journey is affected by it, and how much I enjoyed the journey. And I don't know. I think it didn't make me hate the movie or anything like the episode or anything, but there was some stuff that I didn't quite appreciate.
Well, okay. I mean, we got 3 astronauts who go up in space for 31 hours. They disappear from the radar for 24 hours, and then they come back, and over the course of the episode, all 3 of them in turn just disappear from history until there's nothing left, and then no one has any memory of this space flight even taking place. And then the hospital where they are is like, this isn't an astronaut hospital, it's a malaria ward.
Yeah, no, we'll get to that at the end, and we'll dive more into it. Maybe throughout talking through the rest of the episode, we can maybe get something to talk about at that point. But my guesses were way wrong. So it establishes that the ship and the guys, they disappeared for 24 hours. And then they all of a sudden showed back up and landed on Earth. And so my guesses were that they were either replaced, and that the people who showed up back on Earth weren't the actual astronauts, or that they were brainwashed into being complicit soldiers with the aliens, evil aliens, or that they'll remember vital information about the time that they disappeared during that like vital information about the impending alien takeover at the very last minute, you know, and yeah, none of those.
It's none of that.
Yeah. But the guy going missing and the first guy going missing, I thought that was a good start too.
I certainly thought like, okay, this is gonna be a space episode. That's what it's about. And it's like, no, it didn't even. I shouldn't say it's not that it has nothing to do with space, but if you go back to the pilot episode of the Twilight Zone, we were trying to think about space and what people thought about space before we actually went to space, and it was like, at least to the people writing the TV shows, they had no idea what space would be like or what it would do to you. This comes out, more than a year before the first person, Yuri Gagarin, goes into space for the Soviet Union. And then later that same year, Alan Shepard goes into space for the USA, baby. But it was always like, I don't know, what if they come back and they have space madness? Or
this isn't even, honestly, this is a lie. This is not a space episode. The episode has fucking nothing to do with space or their travels or anything. They could have just gone on any kind of test mission doing something or whatever, and they came back and then this starts happening. Like, I don't know. I think it's all a red herring, the whole they're spacemen thing, and they disappear for 24 hours and then now they're back, and it was all just a red herring for everything that's going to actually happen.
So we open seeing X-20, an experimental interceptor. And this particular flight, it was up there in space for 31 hours, but it disappeared from the radar for 24 hours. And oh my God, what happened? 3 astronauts return to Earth and go to the hospital. Colonel Forbes is Rod Taylor, and he is sort of just puttering around the hospital. And then the nurse thinks he's acting a little strangely. He goes into room 15 and he meets one of the other 2 guys, Major Gart. We are out of Gart license plates in the gift shop. Gart asks Clegg Forbes, what are these names? Colonel Clegg Forbes. He's like, hey, what's going on in the outside world? Because I guess it's like he was injured on reentry. The other 2 were fine. So he has to stay at the hospital while the others 2 go to like bars and go carousing and stuff. And so he's asking for news of the outside world. And but Forbes is still acting very weird. And Gart is like, why are you acting so weird? He says, you got off on a toot, didn't you? A little hungover, maybe. And, okay. So Forbes says, here's the deal. Yesterday I left the hospital and I left with somebody. Who did I leave with? And Gart says, nobody. You didn't leave with anybody. And he's like, what the hell? He holds up a newspaper and the newspaper is headlined 2 spacemen returns and it's a photo of the 2 of them. And he's like, this newspaper used to say 3 of us 3 of us came back, and it was a photo of 3 of us, and it's different now. So that's sort of the crux of the episode is he knows that he went up into space with 2 companions and came back, and that he saw the newspaper headline, and now it's all changing.
Which, things like this happen a lot in movies and television nowadays. The old, hey, the somebody disappears from reality, or it seems. A lot of times they didn't. It's just people trying to make the person think that or whatever. Like I don't even remember what it's called, but the thing that I see an ad for every like 15 seconds on YouTube, the Kaylee Cuoco TV show, where her boyfriend on a train just disappears in the middle of the train ride, and she's like, "Where's my boyfriend?" Like, what boyfriend? You didn't have a boyfriend. And yeah, it's been done so many fucking times. But so it's that thing. But it's always effective. Just the idea of dude, am I going fucking crazy? Like, what is going on here? Like, I know. Just like I know you exist. Like, who's Matt, dude? I'd be like, it would just drive you up the fucking wall with paranoia and what's going on, and am I going crazy and fear, and yeah, it's always very effective, even though it's been done so many times.
And people are, yeah, you said it. You just said it. Yeah, people are super interested in the idea. Easy way to get traffic for your videos. People just make something about the Mandela effect and watch people come pouring in. People are fascinated by this idea. What do you think accounts for that? Why do you think people are so interested in this idea?
Because they can relate to it. Probably everybody's got something that they remember distinctly that is factually untrue. Everybody's got that some memory, like the Berenstain Bears. or Luke, I am your father. You know, something that they would bet their lives or any amount of money on that is just not true.
I made a video recently about the ending of Jaws when Roy Scheider says, "Smile, you son of a bitch," to the shark and then shoots him. And I was convinced that the movie had been edited so that it cuts before he says the word bitch. And that when I was a kid, you heard him say bitch. And then I drove myself insane listening to it and being like, I can still hear bitch. I can't hear bitch, before eventually learning the truth, which is like the audio mix has changed so that the sound of the gunshot is now a little louder than the sound of bitch. But I was having like a near psychotic break from like, I know what I know. And I know that I used to hear him say bitch and I don't hear him say bitch anymore. What is happening?
Yes, so we all have our Mandela effect stories, you know, several of them even. And then the other thing that probably makes it popular is that it also kind of ties into the we're living in the Matrix kind of thing that's blown up over the last few years. The glitches in the Matrix shit.
Yeah, because we are. And this all comes back to whether it's the Twilight Zone or our reality right now. It's technology. It's TV back then. It's phones now. A phone where you can look at your customized boutique reality, or you can sort of fact check reality and suddenly see all the things you were wrong about, even though you feel in your gut, I was not wrong about them. They were called the Berenstein Bears. What's going on? And in the Twilight Zone, in this show that is so much about the fact that every household now has a television set in it where you can just watch. You can watch reality, or you can watch fake. You can watch fiction. Images that your brain processes are real, but they are not real. They are not reality, but your brain doesn't know the difference. And what is that doing to us? Which we've talked a lot about on this podcast. A big difference between going to a movie theater, leaving your house and going to a movie theater, being in a room with a lot of other people and watching a movie, and then just passively turning on the TV set in your living room and just watching it for hours and hours and hours.
It's the whole shared experience thing, I think, is the difference.
Yeah, that you're with other people and that you got up and you left your house and you went to a place to do it.
You feel connected too, and accomplished even, maybe. It makes you feel less guilty about just, loafing.
I mean, I think that there was a huge difference between when we were kids and, our families had a computer, but the computer was in the computer room and you went and your brother's on the computer. You're like, I want to be on the computer. And your brother's like, you can be on the computer an hour from now. And you're like, oh, fine. But now everybody's just on the computer just constantly all the time, and not just reading and consuming, but creating and feeding in.
Before we move on, though, I just want to point out in the hospital how they're both smoking a cigarette as they talk about this. They're smoking cigarettes in the fucking hospital. The 50s and 60s were fucking great, dude.
No, we have to go back. It's fine. Cigarettes rule. Cigarettes are great. I went to the casino last week with Lacey. I smoked 10 cigarettes. It was amazing. It was the best night of my life.
I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
I really am. No, because I know how much that meant to you.
And every time, I basically smoke cigarettes once a year. And this was the first time in a long time where I was like, this is good. I like this. Because usually I'm just doing it to look cool. Maybe I should go have a cigarette right now. Anyway, I mean, just the idea that the newspaper is supposed to represent reality. And now the newspaper is saying something that I know is not true. And something as simple as that, what that can do to warp a person's brain, to even what is reality? What is the truth? Does it even exist?
And that also ties into, things that have happened throughout history and that are still happening today about how, the newspaper's lies anyway. The newspaper isn't even the truth. It's supposed to represent the truth, and he knows it's not the truth. He knows it's wrong. Even though it represents the truth, and it's even today, yes, the news is not the truth. It's not being completely sincere or accurate.
Well, even if you take away any ill motive on the part of the media just by its very nature is not it is a representation of reality. A photo is not a thing. A photo is a depiction of a thing, and you will lose something through every single layer of mediation.
So the next thing that happens is that it goes into flashback mode. So the guy says, "Hey, you don't remember what happened? Me and the guy were standing right here. He said something. You said something. He made a joke. I laughed, and then it goes blue, 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 flashback mode to that's the day before, the morning before. Okay, and they're talking, and the bedridden soldier is shown through the mirror's reflection. Especially when they're exiting the room, the other two guys are leaving the room, and it leaves the bedridden soldier, or whatever you want to call him, in the mirror, being reflected in the mirror, showing him by being reflected in the mirror. And it's yet another mirror in the Twilight Zone, and it just got me thinking, okay, so first it got me thinking, okay, what does this symbolize in this episode? The beginning of the mirror universe, we're going back and seeing the alternate reality that doesn't exist anymore, after the guy has disappeared the next day, the mirror universe, or, does it signify that Twilight shit is about to happen, like that the mirror is the gateway to the Twilight Zone itself? And then got me onto a little rabbit hole. I Googled simply, mirrors are used all the time in the Twilight Zone. That's all I Googled. And I came upon something that Rod Serling talked about mirrors. He says, mirrors are used a lot to represent distorted reality, paranoia, and the thin veil between one external life and inner self. Mm-hmm. They often serve as thresholds to parallel dimensions, portals for doppelgangers, or tools for psychological confrontation. And then somebody else brought up in a Reddit thread the trap in filmmaking. It's where mirrors allow a character to be trapped within the frame, reflecting a sense of isolation or being watched. And it just got me thinking about how sorts of different ways mirrors are used, and not just the 11 episodes of Twilight Zone we've seen, like what's the one where he goes back into the past? Right?
Walking Distance.
Walking Distance. Okay, and how we see him walking towards the town through the reflection of the mirror in a soda machine. Like there's so many different ways you can use a mirror.
Well, I mean, one very fundamental thing is they are literally characters within inside of a box that you are watching. We see the flashback. Now we see the third guy. His name was Ed Harrington. But the thing is, Bill, the guy who's injured, says, like, I've never heard of Bill. I don't know who you're talking about. Kleb, what are you talking about? And this makes Kleb Forbes go insane. You have known Ed Harrington for 5 years. He's my best friend. Yesterday morning, they were all taken to the hospital after they got out of the spaceship, and they went into this hospital room where there were 3 beds, but now there are only 2 beds. What's going on exactly?
So the flashback starts. It goes back to the day before when the two, when McDonald, is that what you said it was? Harrington and Clegg, they go to a bar after they leave the hospital because, it's like 10 in the morning and, what else would you do but go to the bar, and it was, they got 30-cent beers, again, 50s and 60s are great. Smoking in hotel rooms, beers for 30 cents.
Yeah, they go to the bar. They get just these enormous glasses of beer. And I love the bartender's like, say, weren't you the fellows who were up there in space? And then the lady, this floozy, she's like, say, mister, what's outer space like? And he's like, well, little lady, I got to tell you, it's way out.
Does that mean like far out? Like groovy?
Yeah. He's like, He's trying to be hip.
Yeah, he does a great job.
But then Ed Harrington, he kind of like freezes and he yips and he drops his beer and he says, I got a very funny feeling. Never felt anything like this before. It's like I don't belong here. Like if I was to let myself go, I'd disappear. Detaching from reality.
Okay, so yeah, I thought that was weird that he felt like he was about to disappear, or he could disappear at any moment. And then he literally does. Like, okay, so you think, he's just maybe losing grip on reality? Or just feels like a detachment with reality, and that.
Do I think that?
Yeah.
I think that. I mean, what's literally happening is they passed through some sort of temporal membrane and either went to another universe or they went to a universe and then came back to their universe, but they are supposed to be dead, and the universe is like spitting them back out now or correcting itself. Like the Matrix is correcting its code.
Okay, that's exactly what I wrote down. So the guy he says, "Oh, I feel weird. I feel like I could just disappear at any moment." Blah blah blah. And then he says, "I'm gonna go call Ma." So he goes to the payphone, calls his mother, and drops down. And the other soldier comes up, says, Craig says, "Hey, what's going on?" And he says, "I just called my mom," and says, "Hey, it's your son Ed." And she says, "I don't have a son Ed." And then I asked to speak to the old man, and he said, "Hey, stop harassing my wife, with your practical jokes. My parents don't remember me. What is going on?" And then which I thought that was great that his parents don't know him, even though I don't know if it necessarily makes sense. Why would people? I guess that symbolizes he's like this close to being out of reality. He's this close to disappearing from the universe. Like,
well,
first,
you're saying why?
First, the people that are closest to him forget that he exists, and then he ceases to exist.
I think that the last one who knows he exists is Clegg, because he went up there with him. But for all intents and purposes, he's dead to everyone. I don't know. This is not something you can answer.
Okay, but then he says, stuff like, "Oh, I don't know." He starts pondering, what's going on, connecting it to their flight, their journey, or whatever. And he says, maybe we shouldn't have come back. Maybe we weren't supposed to come back, which I thought, again, why does he think that? Why does what's going on, his feelings, that he might disappear, his parents don't know him anymore. Why does that think maybe they shouldn't have come back? Maybe they weren't supposed to come back. I mean, if they weren't supposed to, if they left and didn't come back, his parents would still know him. Like, I don't know. It's a little strange. I thought that he would start thinking that. But then I wrote, okay, so they're living in a reality / timeline that shouldn't exist. And the universe is course correcting. And eventually they'll all disappear. Which, check. That's exactly what happens. But yeah, that was really interesting though. Because he said maybe we shouldn't have come back. So yes, they shouldn't have come. They weren't supposed to come back. But they did, and now the universe is course correcting by getting rid of them one at a time.
We did an episode one of the recent episodes involved a guy going to therapy, and people just now thinking about the mainstreaming of the idea of the mind. It's kind of a weird thing, and it can kind of shape the way you view your own life and your own experience in your own reality. That's crazy, huh? One thing that was happening at the time and with all this Cold War paranoia was the idea of brainwashing. And there was a widespread belief that American soldiers in the Korean War were literally brainwashed as POWs by the Soviets. That's what the movie The Manchurian Candidate is about. No evidence that this actually happened, but people thought like this is a thing that could happen. It's plausible. There's so much we don't know about the mind. Maybe your mind can be totally altered so that you believe you don't exist, or that you don't have parents, or that you're a totally different person, or whatever it may be. So I think that's another thing it's being influenced by.
I think a cool direction they could have gone is that perception is reality, and how the mind is such a powerful thing. Like, maybe they could have done it to where like these guys never existed, and they just like, well, no, couldn't do all three of them. But like two of them never existed, and the third one just thought them into reality, But then they realized that they weren't, supposed to be there. They didn't belong for some reason, and then that broke their existence, and then they disappeared. I don't know. They could have done something with thinking things into reality and out of reality. Like the guy believes he's going to disappear, so he does disappear. I don't know. I feel like that would have been an interesting way to go in.
I think this whole thing, and credit to Richard Matheson, and I read the short story and it's great. Somebody make a fucking movie out of this. This is a great premise. I don't know where you go with it, but somebody get on that, because this is a great idea.
Yeah, I don't know if they exactly knew where they were going with it either, but
no, I'm saying to expand this from 22 minutes to a 2-hour movie. I don't know what that whole story is, but this is a great. I mean, it's it's inspired so many different things, but I think it'd be really cool to have a modern day sci-fi movie with this premise that people went into space, came back, and now something's up.
I completely agree. And there probably is. We just never heard of it. It's was low budget and not a big deal. I wouldn't be surprised if something like this did
There's
exist.
lots of stuff like Alex Garland's movie Annihilation. It kind of is dealing with that to a degree, but set it in the 60s. It'd be fun.
Well, I tell you all the time, the Twilight Zone is just unbelievably good at premises, at thinking of the original premise, and they don't always land it. It doesn't always, work out great, but or done well, but it's still a great premise, whereas this one is more, it's better done. Although we're going to get to the part I don't like. Okay, so he feels like he's going to disappear, and then he does. And then Clegg's like, the fuck is happening? And he's like, where's
you're
my
seeing it from Clegg's perspective, and Clegg is being told by his friend, by Ed, I feel like I'm going to disappear. He's like, you're not going to disappear. It's all just a gag. We're all just having fun. And he turns around and then he returns to the phone booth where Ed was, and he's just not there anymore. And it would be different if you literally saw him dissolve, but he didn't. It's just he's gone, and there's no evidence that he was ever here.
Again, way creepier, way better done, much better way of going about his disappearance in the first place. And now we're into Clegg, and he's starting to get paranoid and scared and what the fuck is going on, and he plays it really, really well. He asks, hey, where's my friend? They're like, what friend? You didn't have a friend? He's like, yeah, I did. His beer that he dropped up, and the beer's gone. And he's starting to, oh shit, and the walls are closing in on him, what the fuck is happening? And then, you guys are all crazy. I'm not crazy, starts projecting. You guys are crazy. I'm not crazy. This is bullshit. And then he goes looking for Harrison. Is it Harrison? Harrington. He was looking for Harrington, and great acting. He does a great job portraying this scared, confused, desperate, acting, God, all he wants is to see Harrington again, or acknowledge that he exists, or acknowledge that he's not going, his best friend is still here, and that he's not going crazy, and that he's not going to be the next one to disappear. Does a great job doing all that.
It's incredible. And that we can prove things by saying, look, here is the newspaper. And then you look at the newspaper and it's different.
Or the telegram. He talks to his girlfriend briefly and says, no, I wrote in the telegram that me and Harrington were coming to see you or whatever. And then he checks the telegram. Boom. All that part's gone.
There's an act break. He goes back to the hotel, and his girlfriend Amy arrives, and he's like, I'm in trouble, Amy. And she's like, oh, no fooling. And he had telegrammed her, Ed and I we're discharged tonight. Please meet us at the bus station. And he wrote down this message in his hotel room. So he's like, I'm going to prove to you that Ed exists. Cause she's like, what? There's no Ed. What are you talking about? He's like, goddamn, there is an Ed, and I'll prove it. I wrote the word Ed down on this piece of paper. And he picks up the piece of paper, and it's not on there. It just says, meet me all by myself at the bus station. So he's freaking the fuck out now is Rod Taylor. Very, very good. Steps out into the hotel balcony and is just kind of standing in front of the desert sky with the stars in the background. It's kind of like he is suspended up in space. Trapped in some sort of liminal space between the two. And he is playing, Rod Taylor, a great actor, playing a very good mixture of confusion and fury. And this is very well observed detail. People who are confused are angry about it. They're fucking furious. If you've ever talked to an old person, you will know what I'm talking about.
Yes, very, very well done.
And then he goes back to the bar. Now it's closed. No Ed anywhere to be found. And so that's the end of the story, because this has all been a flashback of Rod Taylor telling Colonel Gart or Major Gart, whatever he is, the tale. But now Clegg Forbes, Rod Taylor, he is starting to act like how Ed was acting before he disappeared. Like, I feel like I'm starting to slip away. There can be no doubt about it.
But then, okay, there's 4 or 5 minutes left at this point, and I'm thinking to myself, how the fuck is this going to be resolved? How are we going to get satisfying answers in 4 minutes? And then it all just starts getting rapid fire at this point. So he disappears, and Clegg's like, "What? Hey, it's not my friend. He's not well." And the nurse is like, "What friend are you talking about?" He's like, "The guy that was here in the bed with me." And he turns around, and that bed's gone now. So he is now, what's his character's name?
Gart.
Clegg. So Clegg is now Gart. He's playing the Gart role. Like what do you mean he's not? And the bed's gone that he was staying in, and it starts getting rapid.
Gart is now playing the Clegg role. First there's Ed. He goes nuts. Then Clegg starts to go nuts, and then he disappears. And now Gart is the last one standing, and he's starting to go nuts because he can feel he's starting to slip away too. And he screams, "I don't want this to happen."
So yeah, Forbes disappears. Universe course correcting itself again, and then just like that, it's going rapid fire at this point. The nurse goes. Although I don't know, somehow, how did they transition to Gert not being there anymore?
Clegg runs out of the room, and Gart gets up to go look out of the room at the hallway. Looks down the hall. There's nothing down the hall, and then the nurse comes up, and he's like, "Did you see him? Did you see Colonel Forbes run past you?" And she's like, "Huh? What are you talking about? Who's Colonel Forbes?" And then she's like, "Oh, come on, we need to get you back to bed." But now the second bed is no longer in the room. Mm-hmm. So now he's freaking out, looks at the newspaper, and it says lone spaceman returns. And the photo on the newspaper is just him. I do wonder if Zemeckis and Gale were using this as an inspiration for Back to the Future of disappearing from the photos where the photo is exactly the same. We're just literally removing individuals from the photo. And then the nurse is like, "No, you're the only one who's ever been in this room." And then I don't remember how they depict this, but we see her speaking with like a superior at the hospital. And he's like, "Hey, let's go check out nurse room 15. It's now empty and there's no beds in it. The room is empty. These astronauts were never here." And that's kind of it.
And a great closing narration by Serling too, as usual. His opening and closing narrations are always so on point.
He says, "Once upon a time, there was a man named Harrington, a man named Forbes, a man named Gart. They used to exist, but don't any longer. Someone or something took them somewhere. At least they are no longer a part of the memory of man. And as to the X-20 supposed to be housed here in this hangar, this too does not exist. And if any one of you have any questions concerning an aircraft and 3 men who flew her, speak softly of them, and only in the Twilight Zone."
Do you know if the ship, the X-20, had a name? Was it like the USS Limited?
I didn't write anything down, and there's nothing on Wikipedia. It's just I just wrote the X-20.
Okay, because I love to pause newspapers and read the rest of newspapers when they do it, and I couldn't see a whole lot. But once again, the articles were fully fleshed out. Like even in a time period where pause was unavailable, you literally could not pause and read anything you could not see anything other than the headline that they wanted you to see. But yet the articles were fully fleshed out and written with perfect grammar and whatnot. But one of the other headlines was "Engineer is killed as Limited crashes." And I was thinking to myself, oh, okay, maybe that's it. Maybe they crash landed their ship and killed a super important engineer, somebody that was going to make a huge breakthrough for mankind. And so the universe had to undo this for the better of humanity. So they got rid of the astronauts, and then they got rid of the spaceship. And none of that ever happened. So engineer is now back to life and does
That's
something
really cool.
huge.
But do you know, Patrick, the significance of the word limited?
No.
In this context, are you familiar with limited hangout?
No.
Okay, so that is a term used in espionage and public relations, where you have to release some information to the public, but your strategy is we're going to release a little tiny bit of it, and that will keep people sated and will keep them from ever having to learn the rest of the truth. Limited hangout. And that was that has always been a well-known spy tactic. And people at this point in time in the late 50s, early 60s are getting more of an awareness of covert operations, of what governments are doing all around the world, and they suspect doing at home. And this is all going to explode in 3 years with the Kennedy assassination. But I feel like that the writers putting in the word limited, that cannot be an accident. That's an allusion to this is some sort of disclosure.
So maybe we're on something here with that engineer. Maybe he was, I don't know. Maybe there was something there to that. But okay, I'm still just so dissatisfied with the ending anyway. I mean, okay, on one hand it is neat, But then when you start thinking, well, wait, then it starts getting irritating and a little infuriating and confusing. Why weren't they supposed to come back? Why are they erased from history instead of simply not having them ever returned after they went missing? Wouldn't that have made more?
No, this is Final Destination. You had the premonition about the plane crash or the roller coaster crashing, and you're like, guys, we can't get in the spaceship and go through the thing. But you did it anyway, and now the universe is just taking a little bit of time to catch up to you.
Okay, but let's say they weren't supposed to come back. You know, for one reason or another. Maybe they weren't supposed to come back because when they come back, they land and kill the engineer, who's super important. Whatever. Maybe they weren't supposed to come back. But why, when the universe is course correcting this, didn't the universe just write them to have when they disappeared for the 24 hours, they never reappeared? Why do they have to be erased from existence, from everybody's knowledge of them?
Well, in Back to the Future, why do the McFly children disappear slowly? Hey, it should just automatically have happened as soon as the event happened. You are now totally erased from the timeline for all of time. It's not a thing that happens.
One unanswered why is not an answer to my why. They're just both unanswered whys that suck.
Oh, I thought it would be the answer to your question.
It would have made more sense if they just simply never come back.
I love the idea that the universe is a computer, and computers go slow sometimes. You need to unplug it and plug it back in, or you need to close some apps.
I'm okay with the course correcting thing. I'm okay with that universe correcting the mistake that they should have never come back, that they weren't supposed to come back. I'm okay with that. I just don't know why they had to be erased from history as well, instead of simply they just never came back. And I'd also like to know why. Like
because time is not if causes do not precede effects. Everything's happening simultaneously. Time is not linear. It's all just one blob of stuff happening at the exact same time. So to the universe, I erase you now. That means I need to erase you always.
It seems like a lot more work, though, because now you're changing everybody's lives that they've ever interacted with.
It does seem unnecessarily punitive. Yeah, just say that they died. Why do they have to have never existed?
Yeah, they disappeared and they never reappeared, and everybody's like, "Well, they died in space. Sucks for them."
When they were gone for 24 hours, they accidentally saw something they were not supposed to see. They saw like the CEO of the universe's rich kids.
Did they? Did they see something they weren't supposed to see? Like, no, really, I want to know. Like, there's no fucking answers to anything. What happened during the 24 hours they were gone?
That's why it's good. You get to fill in whatever it is.
There's too many fill-ins, though. There's too many whys and having to fill things in. Like, give me something. Just give me the reason they weren't supposed to return.
I think that. So if it was just something else, if they went into like a cave and came back out, it's the fact that it's sort of you feel like it's teasing you with some sort of greater revelation.
Yes.
I don't feel that way. I do see why you feel that way, but to me, this episode is way more about like the experience of knowing something is true and not finding any confirmation in any way.
I don't know. I need just like, I'm good with ambiguity. I really am. I'm good with filling things in on my own. I do enjoy that writing technique, but there's too much of it. Just give me like one fucking answer. You don't have to tell me what happened during the 24 hours that are gone. I'd like to know like maybe a hint at something that happened during 24 hours they're gone, but you don't even need to do that. But just tell me why they weren't supposed to come back. Tell me why.
You needed a character to look into the lens of the camera like in the last episode and say exactly what happened.
No, I don't. They spoon-fed the obvious then. There's nothing obvious here that they can spoon-feed me. I don't need it like that. I just need something. Maybe it is that subtle thing. I'm just going to go with the engineer was important. That the universe needed the engineer that they killed. That's why they weren't supposed to come back.
I do think there is an element of like we are all bugs in the universe. We don't know anything about anything. We couldn't even begin to understand what's actually going on. So if we just have this thing that we don't know, that's a black box, and we can never know that more accurately reflects what it's like to be alive and trying to do things like explore space, which what are we doing? Let's figure it out. Let's figure out how to work things down here first.
Okay, but I feel like they could have done everything you wanted them to do and everything you appreciate from this episode without raising questions that they had no intention of answering. This many questions they had no intention of answering. And now I'm a little frustrated.
I agree. I think that it's raising those questions because it is playing in the sandbox of we will be going to space soon. We as the people will be going into space, and we have no idea what that actually means and what that can do to us. So it wouldn't be as effective for me if it was something else.
If it really was they weren't supposed to come back because they coming back killed the engineer, then now I'm satisfied. I'm fucking satisfied.
This thing you made up.
I didn't make it up. Well, yeah, I didn't make up the headline. It said that engineer dies in limited crash.
It said sexy engineer dies, mourned by all.
Yeah, no, I'll just go with that, and that'll help me sleep tonight, okay?
Even if they killed the engineer who was super important, why does the universe have to erase them for all eternity? Why did it have to erase them from the past?
That's another question I asked you, and that I'm not happy with the reason that they had to be erased from humanity. Why couldn't they just not come back after they disappeared? That's what I said. But I'll live with that one. I'll live with that question. I need just an answer to one of the questions, and preferably that one. Why weren't they supposed to come back? That's the big one that I need to be resolved. I'm going to go with the thing I made up based on the headline, because they put the headline in for some reason. They could have put any headline in, but they put that headline in.
Yeah, they're trying to tell us something. They know things that we don't know, or that people watching TV don't know, but they want us to know. They just can't. So yeah, the universe has claimed them. It has not killed them. That would be nicer. It has just erased them forever. I think it's cool as hell. A+. I love this episode so much. My favorite.
Really? A+?
Yes. Perfect.
No.
This is everything I want. Yeah. I don't know what. There's nothing else to say, but Patrick and I are bitterly divided. I don't know if we can heal this rift. This cosmic rift.
Oh, no, it's not that bitter. I mean, I'll give it a B. Because it was good. It was a really good episode. The ending fell flat for me, and they didn't give me enough answers or closure. And yeah, it was a good journey. The destination just wasn't good. It's like, you know, putting all this effort into getting to Wally World, and it's closed.
But then they get to go in. John Candy lets them in, and they get to ride.
Okay, and my answer of the engineer is the reason they shouldn't have come back is because he needs to live. That's my John Candy.
That's John Candy letting you in. And there's no lines, and you can write everything as much as you want.
It's a beautiful thing. No, I'll give it a B. If there was something between B and B+, I'd give it that.
Let's see. What's next? Next is a Christmas Day episode, What You Need.
It doesn't sound familiar at all.
Steve Cochran plays a peddler. We get to meet another peddler.
I bet you he's not as nice as the last one.
Gives a vial of cleaning fluid and an impoverished ex-baseball player a bus ticket to Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Wait, what?
Moments later, the latter receives a phone call over the payphone inviting him to accept a coaching position for a team in Scranton.
What? I thought, you sure you're reading the right thing? Okay, the Paramount Plus synopsis is a 2-bit thug thinks he's found the key to a better life in an old sidewalk salesman who has the uncanny ability to tell people what they need most. All right, that sounds better.
That's this.
This is a better way of saying it.
All right, we'll take it up with Wikipedia. All right, that's the Twilight Zone. Maybe every episode we should read with us just kind of trying to figure out what the next episode is.
Dude, that's going to be good, I think. He's got the ability to tell people what they need most. I bet you the things he says are things that really make you think.
I think they're going to be like really basic and obvious and straightforward.
Oh no, I'm really looking forward to the message and the metaphors they're going to bring us. I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be real good. Speaking of really makes you think, on the same Saturday I watched
the house that Jack built.
No, the other one that I watched with the family.
I don't know. We're the astronauts. Our brains are memories are being extracted from our brains.
Well, I just watched Adjustment Bureau, and it was as flat as the first time I saw it. But I remember when we were done with the movie, and Mom was talking about, oh, it reminds me of me and John, and how people are trying to, keep us apart. And you're like, yep, really makes you think. She said, it does, yes.
Do I remember? I wrote a goddamn song about it, Patrick. By our band, Rural Route 9, track 3. Really,
I didn't know the song was about you, me, and my mom seeing the Adjustment Bureau.
It's not about that, but that phrase is definitely. I've just always loved that phrase.
Yeah, I know.
And it is a thing that way after I did the song, I wrote the song, I realized it's some Bart Simpson says it. He says it in when he's doing Bart's People on the school news. He just does like a flowery segment. And he's just like, really makes you think.
Yeah,
so it's just one of those things I absorbed without realizing where it came from. So it's just a sarcastic thing I said while being a bitch to your mom, and then wrote a song about it. Check out that song. Check out Rural Route 9, our band. That song is the story of a person who starts believing a conspiracy theory because he gets injured and then starts taking pain medications, and then the coronavirus pandemic happens and he watches a lot of YouTube. But as with all conspiracy theories, most of it is true. It just goes a little too far and adds in like reptiles and stuff. But it really makes you think when you think about it.
Yeah, I can see. And the other movie that I mentioned that I just watched a few days ago was What Dreams May Come.
That's right, which I've never seen. And I've heard it's terrible. You're not missing anything.
Well, the critics loved it. The audience it was like a 6.0.
I remember Ebert giving it a bomb, I think.
Huh. Well, I'm pretty sure it said Rotten Tomatoes was really good, but the IMDb rating was not good. Wish this phone was a little faster. Especially when I really need it to be like fast. Alright, What Dreams May Come. Oh, it's got a 7 on IMDb. That was the opposite. 7 on IMDb, 51% on Rotten Tomatoes.
So that's What Dreams May Come. And thank you for listening to the Signpost Up Ahead. Check out my other podcast, 1 Week Rental, which I host with my wife, Lacey Roth. Deep dive into a different movie every week. Spend the week with the movie, researching it, etc., watching it, coming up with weird theories, and we tell you all about it. Got another podcast, Pod Job, a James Bond podcast, every month with Wade Hemel. We review a James Bond film, and Signpost Up Ahead. Thank you for continuing to support us in all the work we do and what work it is. And I think this was a fine time discussing my favorite episode of The Twilight Zone so far.
Yeah, no, it was great. And I also had a wonderful time. I hope we can do it very soon. And I hope if you enjoyed this in any way, please leave any kind of like or subscribe. And if you have just 2 seconds, leave a comment on YouTube. It would mean the world to me. It really would.
No, just write in the comment, just said, hey, I like it.
Yeah, that's it.
Or just write the word like instead of pressing like. Ideally, you'd do both.
It would help us in the algorithm. But hey, I'm not greedy. I'm not asking for everything. Just if you want to just real quick comment, 1 word, mean the world to me. It really, really, really would. And may you come in your dreams.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.